Alright, back with the life and suffering of Sir Brante. We are very close to the conclusion of Chapter 4. So without further ado, let's get into it. Final preparations. The carriage takes you further down the city's narrow streets. They are filled with noble carriages and commoners hurrying about their business, but the driver skillfully avoids them all. You watch the city uneasily from behind the carriage doors. The past few months have been so tense and challenging, they felt like a single unbearable moment. You had to face one ordeal after another, and in Otten's case, sometimes fell by the wayside. But you have no doubt that the outcome of this case will determine your fate. Your previous encounters with the haughty commander has assured you of that. The time to strike Otten down is coming, soon. Right now, you need to make your final preparations. Your gut tells you that time is running out. Either you seize the initiative or Otten will destroy you himself. But what should you focus on at this critical juncture? You consider your options. Well, this is not an option. I guess we better start a rumor among the aristocracy. You sow the seeds of scandalous small talk to make the nobles believe that Otten's downfall is inevitable. This isn't an option because our justice is not high enough, and our eloquence is not high enough, so... To ensure Otten's downfall, you need to make arrangements. The haughty Archnean still has too many friends in high places. You tell the driver to take you to the Gardens of Plenty, where most eminent Anazote nobles flock to enjoy an afternoon stroll. During this outing, you just so happen to meet many eminent nobles in the garden. After each exchange of pleasantries, you let them in on a little secret. Otten's days are numbered. Overseer Gaius Tempest is about to get rid of the unruly commander, and no one, not even Archduke Melanitis, can change his mind. Naturally, you realize that the Ottens are one of the most ancient Archnean dynasties, but who would dare to defy the will of the twins' blessed Tempest? Many of the noblemen you meet that day react to your words with incredulous looks, but you have the reputation of a respectable and powerful official privy to many secrets. Soon the rumor of Otten's imminent downfall begins to spread among the Anazote aristocracy. Many eminent noblemen are quick to disassociate themselves with the military commander in order to keep their own reputations safe. You rub your hands together in satisfaction. Soon, very soon, Otten will be the only one unaware of his inevitable downfall. Okay, career to 7. Willpower back down to 10. The hour has come. You stand at the window of your office and watch the living streets below, exhausted. For over a year, Anazote has been steadily simmering with unrest, like a soup pot over a well-stoked flame. The endless feud between the Archduke and the Overseer, the first trials against nobles, insurgencies flaring up all across the Empire. Grim, heavy, dark red storm clouds now hang in the sky above Anazote. Preachers of the new faith fill the streets, urging the people to reject the lots. The abbot of the Temple of the Silver Tree, Father Lennart, has turned the city's most ancient church into a new believer stronghold. Commoners flock to the squares in droves. The mobs grow bolder and bolder as they demand new freedoms and protections under the law. Commoners have begun forming armed militias. The last straw insurgents commit brazen acts, hoping to overthrow the authorities. The nobles of the sword demand that every mob be dispersed by force. They are ready to fight for their ancient privileges, sword in hand. You cast a glance back at your desk, still covered with piles of paperwork for Otten's case. You have been working on it for over 2 years now. This case will have to reach a conclusion someday, but when? Will you be able to free yourself from the mortal peril in which it has drawn you? Your thoughts are interpreted by heavy footsteps and clacking hooves. The square in front of the prefecture quickly clears as workers and merchants do their best to flee. A legion battalion is advancing on the prefecture. It is led by Dorius Otten, on horseback and in full armor. He rides right up to the steps. The square resounds with his commanding voice. I am Dorius Otten, High Commander of this province, and I have come to demand justice. I have proof that a judge named Angelo Brante has been collecting slander for years, seeking to tarnish the Otten name. I have already warned this judge, and I will not stand idly by in the face of an insult. To accuse me is to undermine the rule of the Archnians, our noble traditions, and the sacred order of the Empire itself. I demand that a stop be put to this campaign of defamation. I expect Judge Brante to burn his so-called case right now. Until that happens, my battalion is under orders to treat all those who serve at the prefecture as traitors to the crown. No one will leave this building until I see these vile accusations against an Archnian dynasty burned to ash. Elborn comes rushing into your office. He is pale as a ghost, but trying his hardest to remain composed. Angelo, Otten caught us off guard. I knew we should have begun his trial much sooner. He has the upper hand now. No one will come to our aid. We must give Otten our reply. It'll all up to you now. Okay, Augustin. Nice grammar there, Sir Brante. This is the moment of truth. How will you respond to Otten's ultimatum? Without saying a word, you stare out the window again. The sky is dark and overcast. Thunder echoing in the distance. The Legion soldiers stand still, awaiting new orders. Otten's horse is right by the stairs as he awaits your reply. The past several years flash before your eyes. Cases and verdicts, threats and promises, decisions and deeds. Where have they led you, your career, your province? How will you approach the task of rebuffing one of the mightiest Archnians in the province? It will all be decided now. Okay, well, we have two choices. These three are not available. Burn the case. That seems really, really bad. So I guess we better go with this one. Charge Otten with crimes. You respond to Otten by summoning him to trial. You wield the power of the law, and you have enough evidence to indict even an Archnian. You descend the stairs and walk to the doors of the prefecture, ready to meet Otten face to face. You have worked hard to defend the rule of law within the province, and your efforts have borne fruit. Commoners, nobles, even Archnians are all now equal before the law. It is thanks to you that this change has taken root, both in and out of court. You have had to sacrifice your own career and your family's reputation. You have been intimidated and shunned by your peers. But now, you will see this through to the very end. Otten is not just any noble Archnian, he is the High Commander of the province, the right hand of Archduke Milenitis. But he will stand trial nonetheless. Your evidence is overwhelming, and after the people hear of this, the court will have no choice but to find him guilty. You approach Otten and face him. He dismounts his horse, but clad in a full suit of ancient armor. The Archnian is still a head taller than you. Interesting. Here you are at last, Brante. You obeyed me and came out. A wise choice. But where are all the papers you are to burn? You stare down the High Commander and tell him that his case awaits him in the court of law, to which he has been summoned. You hereby accuse Dorius Otten of murdering 19 servants of the Empire. The trial will begin 3 days hence, and is open to all citizens of Anazote. You vile wretch! How dare you give orders to an Archnian? Or do you want me to round up the tally and make it 20? You do not even flinch at his words. Behind you, the pillars of the prefecture, the stronghold of law and justice, reach up for the sky. You notice people flocking to the square, taking heed of your voice. Have no fear, Judge Brante, they shout. Protect the judge. The commoners form a living wall between you and the furious Archnian warrior. Battalion, prepare for battle. Disperse the mob. But the Legion soldiers behind Otten are already faltering. The legionaries no longer wish to tolerate the murderer of their brothers in arms. The battalion captain stares at Otten, his eyes like daggers. Sheath your swords, he commands his men. About face, to the barracks, march. Abandoned, the Archnian looks around in confusion. alone and armor-clad, like a painting of old brought to life. Traitors, you dare call yourselves nobles? You will all pay for this, every last one of you. As will you, Brante, your low-born cronies, and your foul court. Nay. Otten leaps onto his saddle and flees the square, booed by the resentful crowd. You let out a loud sigh. Only now do you realize how incredibly tense you felt. Elborn's hand comes to rest on your shoulder. We've won, Angelo. Otten has already lost, whether he knows it or not. Prepare for the trial, El Brante. The sky over Anazote splits apart, showering the dust-covered streets with long-awaited rain. Otten's sentence. The day of the trial has come. The large prefecture courtroom is overcrowded. The gentry rarely, if ever, visit this place, to say nothing of the Archean dynasties. But this is an unprecedented occasion. The man about to stand trial is an Archean, one born to rule, Dorius of the Otten dynasty, the High Commander of Margra, the Archduke's second in command. All of the elite provincial aristocracy is here today to show their support for Otten. You see Magistrate Vermin among them, as well as many other nobles you have angered as a judge. The noblemen are restless, clutching uneasily at the hilts of their swords. Prefect Elborn presides over the trial. Gaius Tempest occupies the seat of honor next to him. The overseer's face remains coldly indifferent. Your time has come. You walk to the podium, step after step, the weight of their gaze is on your back. Thanks to your efforts, commoners and nobles must now face trial equally. Those born to rule have no choice but to submit to the justice system. Step by step, the future depends on what you are about to say. You begin the opening statement for the prosecution. First, you say that Sir Dorius Otten, a highborn noble, has been found in violation of the Emperor's ban on dueling, with ample evidence to that effect. Enough of this. I've already wasted far too much time on this pathetic trial. So, you want my money, eh, Judge? Very well, I'll pay all the fines. The Otten bloodline can afford them and more. But I was born into my lot, and that lot is to wage war and kill. Thus do I serve the divine design. And no once low-born human is going to teach me how to live by my lot. In the sight of Gaius Tempest, a fellow nobleman born to rule, I demand an end to this disgraceful farce. May no Archean ever be summoned again to this filthy courtroom, fit for peasants and petty merchants. The stalls grow silent. All eyes turn to the overseer. Gaius Tempest winces and knits his brow. He casts a glance over the nobles gathered in the courtroom, then nods for Elborn to continue. In one sense, Sir Otten, you are correct. It truly is disgraceful to see an Archean stoop so low that he must be brought before this court. The trial will continue, Sir Brante. Please conclude your opening statement. You move on to the core of your accusation, speaking with such force that it shakes the stalls. Otten has not merely violated the dueling ban, he has taken lives of at least 19 of his subordinates, all loyal servants of the Emperor. This is murder. It is an act of sabotage against the Legion. It is treason against the Emperor himself. You speak these last words right in Otten's face. All the grumbling voices from the stalls immediately grow quiet. The High Commander turns pale with fury. Gaius Tempest, you are an overseer. You hail from the Emperor's own bloodline. Are you going to allow this unprincipled human scum to decide an Archean's fate? Why, this is nothing more than a bid to seize power. The very power that has flowed through our veins since the Empire was founded. Gaius Tempest rises from his seat, his calm countenance twisted with rage. The Imperial Court of Justice is that very power. Muffled gasps and quiet cries echo from the stalls. The High Commander grits his teeth and stares defiantly at Gaius Tempest. Then you are the traitor here, Your Grace. You are the one who has betrayed the province, nay, the entire Empire, by condemning us to the mercy of the humans and their lowly, dishonorable law. Archduke Milanitis is the only one who still remembers his honor as an Archean and a noble, and justice is on his side. I say this before the entire aristocracy of Anazote. The nobles in the stalls who have come to stand with Otten recoil in terror. His supporters retreat further into the recesses of the courtroom. You are mad, Otten. Be quiet, or I shall silence you permanently. Proceed with the verdict, Prefect. Elborn exchanges a meaningful glance with you and ascends to the podium. Dorius Otten, for violating the ban on dueling, manslaughter of Imperial servants, and treason against Overseer Gaius Tempest, this court hereby deprives you of your sword and sentences you to an eternal exile from the province of Margra. Otten stands still, unmoving, unflinching. The gendarmes cautiously approach the Archdeacon to take his sword. Otten suddenly draws the blade himself and hands it to the officers of the court. Otten's sword comes to rest in your hands. The entire courtroom watches you, holding its breath. Raising your old nemesis's weapon above your head, you turn to face the courtroom. You snap Otten's blade in half. The venerable old steel shatters with a ringing sound, reduced to pathetic broken fragments. Blood trickles down your arms, but you do not notice the pain. Otten's eyes are dead and empty as he stares at you. He staggers to his feet, stumbles out the door, and walks away. His steps echo loudly in the deafening silence of the courtroom. Dorius Otten, once the High Commander of Margra, has been stripped of his sword and banished to exile. Your bloodied hands still clutch the verdict. Today marks a precedent that the likes of which the Empire has never seen. The old ways will never be the same. Thanks to you, change has been put in motion today. There is no stopping it now. Okay, well, that's a -4 relation with Otten. Although, I'm not too worried about that now. The wealth of Margra goes up, order goes up too. To peace. Well, that seems like a very good outcome. The end of Chapter 4. Peacetime. Peaceful years are over. The storm of the Revolt is brewing in Anazote. Tomorrow will be the day when you will reap the harvest of all your deeds during these 8 years. Alright. So let's take a look at everything. I'll take a look at all the other stats. We end with a career at 7 and a justice at 7. Pretty good. Province is at -1. Church is at 2. Wealth of Margra 5. Order at 7. That doesn't seem so bad. Relations. Dorius Otten. Rather low, if I do say so myself. Mayor Egmont is dead. Family. We don't know where Gloria is. Oh. I didn't mean to do that, but that's okay. We are 28 years old, a nobleman, a judge. We've died 3 times. 19 in diplomacy. 16 in valor. 10 in theology. 8 in eloquence. 14 in manipulation. 13 scheming. And we have 10 willpower. A reputation of 8. Wealth of 7. Peace. Unity. 8. Stephen is the heir, though. Look at the family one more time. Our mother Lydia is still alive. Grandpa is dead, but speaking from behind the grave. So, yeah. I think that about covers it. This is moving rather slowly. Let's help it along a little. Alright, let's go ahead and continue.
At last, the day has come which would decide my fate, as well as that of my family, and perhaps the entire Empire. The day of the Revolt.
Okay, nice cutscene. The revolt begins. Word about the sentence you passed upon the Arcane Commander instantly spreads throughout Anazote. The commoners are celebrating for the first time. The law has been proven to be more powerful than the ancient authority of the Archneans. All over the city, triumphant crowds are assembling. The people praise Judge Brante and declare an end to their oppression. The outcries become more daring by the hour. Freedom from tyranny. Down with the noble yoke. The authorities anxiously observe the people's reverie. Elborn receives orders from the magistrate to disperse the crowds with gendarmes, but he refuses to do so on the grounds that the people are unarmed and assembling peacefully. Elverman is livid. The animosity among the ruling circles is quickly transforming into naked enmity. Humiliated, Otten refuses to comply with his new sentence and go into exile. The city is on the brink of a revolt. Whatever that dishonorable court may have decided, my duty is to remain in Margra and stop this maddened mob. The nobility of Anazote eagerly gather under Otten's banners. Outraged by his sentence, they assemble a militia, ready to quell the disturbances with force. The news that Otten has refused to comply with the court's sentence infuriates the common folk. The crowds in the squares become larger. Gangs of armed commoners take to the streets. Remy Elverman is already dead. Where did that come from? His life taken by the verdict of the People's Court. He was strangled by the mob that broke into the city hall. The Chancellor's lifeless body now hangs just outside the windows of his office for all to see. Okay then. There is no stopping the revolt now. But you know that after Otten's trial, your name carries weight in the eyes of the commoners. But how will you use their support at this crucial moment? Okay, well, Sophia is leading the revolt, it would appear. Remy Elverman is, say Muere, I guess, dead. Alright, we got some new stuff going on here on this new tab, the Revolt tab. We are currently at a stalemate with the Revolt. Common folk have a +2 a trust with me. Nobles have a +1 with me, cautious support. Clergy have a +1 with me, +1. And the troops have a +1 with me. Chapter 5, The Revolt. At dawn. For years now, Anazote has been simmering like a cookpot over a slow flame. The powerlessness of the simple folk, unable to change the old order, has gradually given way to rage. Finally, this anger became stronger than their age-old submission to the higher estate and to their fear of the divine retribution. This rage was the spark that lit the fire of the revolt. All of Anazote's commoners have risen up in rebellion. Workers, artisans, merchants, beggars. They all long to break free of noble tyranny and the perpetual suffering that is their lot. The most daring among them have joined the last straw. The secret society has sent entire squads of trained soldiers out into the streets. They hand out guns and bombs to the people, weapons that give them a chance to wage war on equal footing against noblemen descended from generations of warriors. But the most dangerous weapons the rebels possess is the People's Court. The commoners have claimed the right to sentence their enemies to true death. The first nobles executed by the last straw this very night served as proof that these sentences are real. But for the first time in the history of the Empire, the divine force of the law is in possession not only of the noblemen, but also of the common estate. Among the rebels are many new believers. They are ready to take up arms to defend their faith and freedom from the lots. They are led by Lennart, the abbot of the Temple of the Silver Tree. Prefect Elborn's allegiance remains unknown. The Supreme Judge has taken such pains to give the lowly estate more rights. Will he support the revolt that strives to do the same? Anazote has recently been rocked by a series of spontaneous assemblies and protests. The mob demands equal rights for all estates and freedom from the tyranny of the nobles. The authorities must recognize the new faith and grant the commoners the right to choose their own lot. By nightfall, the rebels have disposed of the guards and overtaken the city gate. In a matter of minutes, Anazote was under their control. It is the duty of Overseer Gaius Tempest to crush the revolt. The Archnean nobleman feared for his own position and power, so he was reluctant to punish the rebellious city as discontent slowly grew year by year. But the ensuing uprising has left him no choice. The Overseer has announced a full-scale mobilization. In the morning, the Legion will march toward Anazote under his command and attempt to return the city to Imperial authority with fire and sword. The expeditious arrival of the Legion is the only hope the nobles have left now that they are locked inside the city. Members of the higher estate, especially the old aristocratic families, fear the coming rampage and strive to keep order on the streets. Meanwhile, the Inquisition, led by Sister Jeanne, is trying to stop the new believers and urging the people to reject the Revolt. Both groups are aware that if the rest of the province follows Anazote into rebellion and chaos, the Empire itself and the Divine Order will begin to crumble. After nightfall, the city grows quiet. Its courtyards and squares are empty. In mansions and palaces, hasty negotiations are held, and schemes are concocted. In dark cellars, the revolt is being prepared, and armed units are gathering. Parishes are getting ready to defend the temples of the new faith against the Inquisition. All citizens, rich and poor, common and noble, are arming themselves, some with ancestral swords, others with cleavers. Anazote is preparing, waiting for the dawn. As the Legion arrives for the assault, the rebels assemble into a militia and get ready to fend off the Imperial army. But there is little unity in the camp. Their leaders are already mired in a power struggle. There are also defenders of the Imperial Order within the city walls, members of the old aristocracy, soldiers of the Inquisition, priests of the old faith, commoners unwilling to defy the law and the twins' design. These people too refuse to lay down their arms. The first rays of the rising sun light up the horizon. This day will go down in history. Your entire life has led you to this moment. Step by step, you have made yourself the man you are now. Your actions today could alter the course of history. But are you ready to go the distance? What will have become of you by the time the sun sets? Phew, a lot of reading there. I know that. Let's go ahead and continue. Alright, the Revolt jumps up another 2 to 4 now. We're still in stalemate though. Alright. I guess I'll read this just because. The first rays of the rising sun light up the horizon. The day will go down in history. Your entire step has led you to this moment. Step by step you have made yourself the man you are now. Your actions today could alter the course of history. Are you ready? Yeah, that's about what I read last time, but alright, let's look at these. Here are our outcomes. The Legion is defeated. The Revolt wins. Peace with the Overseer. A peace deal is made, I guess. The city is defended. The Revolt is defeated. The surrender of the Revolt. The Anazote massacre. Boy, that doesn't sound very good. Dark times. Or true death. Oh boy. A lot going on. Events, just a short list of events. The family is in the city. The family has perished. Ugh, let's try and avoid that if we can. The family has fled. The family is saved. Occupation. Escape from the city. Leading the revolt. Defender of the Empire or the rebel. So it seems like 2 revolt options, 1 Empire option, and 1 runaway option. The revolt screen is now available. Alright, well, I think I'll click on this so we can just look at this one more time before I call this video. But yeah, alright. This is the start of Chapter 5. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. We're coming really close to the end of this series, so I've already got a new game picked out that I'm going to play in its place when it concludes. But until then, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I love you. Not really.